Thank you. And yes, so welcome. My name is Rima. I am the founder and CEO of Ardy Marketing. And like just really happy to see a lot of people that we already familiar with and some new people, including somebody from Italy. It's fantastic. So welcome. So yeah, unfortunately, Eunice wasn't able to join us today. She's had a family emergency that she wasn't able to get out of. And so it's going to be me and the team. So I'm going to introduce you to the team right now. We've got Terry, who's our web expert in here, and sometime later on in the month as well, we're going to have another Q&A. If in case, whether we're going to take Q&As today as well, but just to let you know that we're going to do a much in-depth Q&A with him later on. So we've got Terry, and we've got Penina, Moray, and Nepton as part of our team. They're all here. So if in case you have messages from them, please, yeah, they're part of the team, and we're here to actually do this. We love to do this. We love to do some educational webinars, and we've been doing this since last year. And so I'm super excited to have you all again on this one. And today we're talking about web development. So we're going to crush a couple of things. To start off with is why websites, for example. I mean, a lot of businesses try to figure out, like, especially when they're starting up, that, maybe I can start with a social media page and not specifically a website. Will that work? It sure does. But I think sometimes it's important to understand why, like the website itself, right? So here we go. If you have any questions, again, please feel free to write them on the chat. And as I go along, I'll be able to answer those questions. And we've got the team of people here also will be helping to answer the questions as well. Righto. Right. So let's start with what are we going to cover today? So we're going to cover a little bit about the fundamentals, the website must-haves. What are the good elements of a web design? Some planning, what goes into a planning, some of the website layouts, what to consider for the layouts, who's your audience, which is super important to understand who's your audience so that you can be able to do a website that is more appealing to them. What are your goals? Why you want to do a website? What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? Who are the stakeholders? What are the considerations? Elements of redesign. So for example, if you already have a website, but you'd like to redesign it, you'd like to refresh it, for example, what are some of the elements on that? Why is it important to have ease of navigation, some browser information, some information on visuals and search engine optimization? What are some of the technologies that go into this? What are the values, accessibilities? We will show some examples as well. And we have a bit of a resource at the end as well. So we'll stick in here so we can be able to get you that. Okay, so let's get started. So I don't know. Before we just get started, is there any, Nepton, did you have a question for us? I know I'm going to try and make it as interactive as possible. So I know that they had a really nice question about whether you have a website or not, right, Nepton?
Yes, we would love to hear your thoughts. There's a link I'm going to share in the chat, so you just follow it and join our poll. It's a very simple poll. You'll be able to give your feedback, whether you have one, none, or you're thinking about it.
Okay, great. Okay, let me stop sharing this and see if we can be able to go into that. Be good to know. And it's okay. There's no right or wrong answer in here. So that should be fine. Let's see. So it would look something like this when you open it up. Lovely. No, that's fine. Mm-hmm. You're in the right place, thinking of getting one. No, that's also okay. A lot of yeses, that's great. Fantastic. One, like maybe a minute more. Do we have everybody's responses? Do you need a minute? Okay, so yes, you could have a personal website. That's still a website because that's representing who you are and your brand as a personality or a person. That's also okay. And a blog is also, it is considered as a website, especially if you have your own like domain name on it. So yes, that's personal website. Okay, great.
Thank you for your feedback. Thanks.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. Awesome. Okay, so we've got some good responses. Thanks very much, guys. And it's all right if you're in any of these spaces. Um, I think it's important to first of all understand where we're at before we even move forward from there. So that's really good. So let's start with the fundamentals of what web design is. All right. A website is actually something that you put out there to inform and educate about who you are, what you do, um, what's your brand stand for. There's so much information education that a client can experience from your website that they would probably not be able to experience on any other social media page. Because remember, I mean, social media page is not owned by you. Okay, it's owned by somebody else, right? So if it's Facebook, or if it's Twitter, or if it's your Instagram, right? But a website is actually owned by you. And that's really the key important part of this. So whatever information, content, brand that you put into here is basically about yourself and about educating and informing people, right? So that's your fundamental. What is the purpose of a web design or a website? So some of the influences on a web design is the technology. For example, here in Kenya, we find that a lot more people are on their smartphones. So if your website is not responsive on a smartphone, and that's the technology that's there, then you're kind of losing out, right? So you want to know what your target audience is actually and what kind of tech are they using. Some of the content, the nature of your content is really important. And I find this really important as well is your budget, right? How much time do you have to get a website done? Do you want something done? And a lot of times our clients come and say want it done yesterday, right? So you don't have enough time because, and Massimo, you can probably tell me, how long does a coded website actually take? It probably takes, even if it's a simplest of the website, maybe around 4, 6, even sometimes 2, 3 months, right? With the content and information, right? Yes, a lot of times, right? A coded website actually takes much longer for you to put something together. But if you want something that was yesterday, which is what a lot of people like, then yeah. And the budget also. So budget is important part of this, and we'll explore a little bit more about that. Okay. Amount and type of visuals included. So a lot of times, including on this PowerPoint presentations, we use a lot of free pictures or images, yeah, that are on the website on online. But then you're able to also do this for yourself. If you want to be more authentic and credible, then take some good quality pictures of your business, of your products and services, so that people can really relate to you in a better way. All right. And of course, meeting the usability objectives. When you have a client coming on your website, what is it that you'd like them to achieve from coming onto your website? And are you able to meet that objective? Right. So those are the fundamental parts of a web design. Okay, so here's some must-haves for webs. So the UX is user experience. So let's go through the website user experience, the simplicity of it, visual hierarchy. So like, what do you start with? Where do you go? How is it that when your client comes in, and you've got to understand that. And I love some tools that actually work with that, because you can understand the heat map. So it actually follows the client's, like cursor, and how they actually looked at your website. So it starts from like maybe the far left hand side, top left hand side, and it comes down so that you can see. So the visual hierarchy of how someone goes through the website is really important. That's the user experience we're talking about. The navigation or the navigability, how easy is it for them to go to move from the homepage to the contact us to the products and services and so on. Are the pages consistent? Right, so you can't have one page completely different from another page. Someone would feel like maybe they're in a different website altogether. So consistency is really important in terms of your theme and what you're going with. Responsiveness is just what I had talked about earlier, which is, if you have a website like on the way it shows on the laptop or a computer, the responsiveness would change if it's actually on a mobile phone or your smartphone. So you have to have your website responsive, so that clients can their experience on the website is much easier as well. Accessibility is for people with less ability, right? Someone who is not able to. Let's start with colorblind people, and there's things like contrast that you can be able to put on your website that they were able to now see that, or you have the text, voice to text. So accessibility aspects of different things is something that you can put as your user experience. Some of the things are, conventionality, credibility, how other people, how customers are talking about you. And user centricity, I think, is the bottom line. That's how user experience comes about. There's a lot of testing that goes into it when you're doing your websites. So the website DNA, what are the basic things that you'd have to have on your website is your header, which is like the top bar and right at the top. And a lot of people actually put your like a bit of a contact details or your e-commerce icon in there. So your header and your footer, again, footer would have a bit more information, maybe maps, your terms and conditions, that goes onto your footer. Your menu navigation. So again, your menu, your products, about us, contact us, news, events, so on and so forth. Have a search bar, your branding colors. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about branding. So sometimes when you're starting up a business, you have this space where, should I just do the website first and then do the logo? I would definitely recommend to you to do your logo first, so you understand what colors are you working with even on your website, because your website is a branding tool for you as well, your business tool. So it has to have your brand colors in it. Okay, so that's really important. The palette header, clear labels, make sure everything is clearly labeled, the visuals and the media that you put into your website. Call to action buttons, oh my god, that's super important, because you want to ask your client, once they are on your website and you've explained to them, for example, your value proposition and what they would expect on your website. At the end, you have to have some call to action. What would you like them to do? Would you like them to write you a note? Would you like them to subscribe to something? And why would you like them to subscribe to that? To, like, for example, a newsletter, or make an inquiry, or place an order. Whatever that is, a call to action has to be there. And why I put white spaces is that sometimes it's so busy that you're not able to then sort of see like what is next. Again, it's part of user experience, but white spaces in your website are as important as what you fill in it as well, right? So let's see. Okay, let me just move forward, and then I'll come to some of the questions that are in there as well. So what are the critical elements for a website, right? We have, of course, the design aspect of it, and it represents your brand and logo, capturing the attention of the visitors, of course. we've got the content, right? The content is actually really important because you're portraying your message. What is the message that you're actually going to communicate to your potential clients or your clients? And that's really important. How you actually convey that. Are you conveying your vision? Are you conveying, what benefits there are to your client when they're interacting with your website? Your website is your basic, um, so to say, a salesperson, if you will, also online, because it gives a lot of credibility to your business that you have a website. Okay. Other critical elements, of course, is the navigation, you structure and organization of the site. How easy is it to access this information? And I know we've talked about that already. um, Ease of use, the clarity. We've again going to stress about simplicity. Sometimes simple is most important. You don't have to do really complicated things, and especially when you're starting up, you really want to just make it as simple, easily able to load. So speeds are much better. Links that are actually opening up on a different page, for example. So functionality of what you're actually trying to get to the client or the user of that website. In the interactivity, of course, again, like I said, you own this website, right? You've got your domain name, and sometimes the most important objective that you have in here is how you can interact with them. So of course, blogging is one of the easiest way of doing this because you communicate a certain message to them through blogging. But then if you want something real time, chats are really useful, because when you're chatting with a client, you're able to tell them or answer immediate questions rather than them filling in a form. Again, a lot of times clients prefer having an online chat rather than filling in a form and then waiting for a response that may or may not come sometimes, or may take a longer time for them to. Sometimes they're ready. They're on the website and they're ready to make a decision. And the chat is going to help them to just make that quick decision for themselves, right? So interactivity is very important, critical element of a website. Updating and keeping it fresh. Google loves it, right? What do I mean by this? Always have clean, new content on your website. It could also mean you're changing some of the images on there. It could mean like the blogging, the news that you have on it. So there's different things that you can put on it. Otherwise, it feels like an archived informational pack, right? So changing all of these things also helps you rank a little bit higher on Google searches. So Google really does love it. Of course, there's other elements to how you can rank higher, but this is one of the key things as well. And of course, you've got to maintain your website. Maintenance comes in various spaces. You've got your updating, like we're mentioning, testing. So what is working and what is not working? Remember, we're saying user experience, and we're actually basing this entire design or development under user experience. But then the user themselves is the person that you want to test this with. So sometimes what happens is when you're in beta testing, which is now before the website goes live, you can then try out a couple of things and see, to take it to your target audience and people that you're already interacting with, like your customers, your existing customers, and ask them to give you feedback on how easy was it to use, did it portray the information that you wanted, so on and so forth. So testing is actually a crucial part of the maintenance aspect, and that means that you might want to tweak and change things as well. Like for example, the Hotjar. So Hotjar is like a great way of actually sharing the heat maps on a website. And once you start following that, you'll be able to understand where did the client get stuck and how can I improve it. So there's continuous improvement on your website as you go along as well. All right, so that's a bit about that. So let me see if there is anything on the chat that we can sort of talk about. Any questions? I mean, let's see. Okay. Connecting to the speech above, Massimo says, in your opinion, is it important to respect the mobile first practice to develop a site? Right? Okay, so in a priority, like I think what Terry is saying is right. I find that like my client in the UK, they are more They have, like, when we look at their Google Analytics, they have more clients on the laptop or the computer than on their social on their mobile phones. But so it's important to know which target you're in. Like, for example, here in Kenya specifically, a lot more people are actually consuming mobile rather than laptops or computers, right? Even more than tabs. And you'd be surprised, that very few tabs are used. And that doesn't mean that you should not have it optimized for that, for the few people that are going to be on that, but more so optimize it for the mobile, for sure. Okay, so then top priority for here in Kenya would be something like that. So you look at that kind of thing also for in Italy, Massimo, and see what is more responsive in there. Okay, Grace, should all websites be interactive 24/7? And if so, how can this be achieved since visitors may want a response to their queries in real time? Great question, Grace. What I would tell you about this is it depends on what business you are. If your business is very highly, in terms of like the response time, or like someone wants to make an easy decision, like in the middle of the night, for example, about something that they're purchasing for, I am presuming for their business, then it's important to have something 24/7. But a lot of times what they do is the chat bots are great, because imagine chatbots can also answer some of the frequently asked questions. So to start off with, maybe that's the interaction that would be there, right? So the interactions would be just the responses or auto response. Yeah, exactly. Auto responses that come through would be great with a chatbot. And then after that, the live would then sort of kick in after that, and you can make sure it's clear in your communication that a live person will be available from x to time to x time. So then also, again, it's not something that they're waiting for someone to respond and it's not happening, right? A lot of people then do an API or integration of WhatsApp. So on your website, you have a chat for WhatsApp. So again, if someone is available immediately to respond to you, they're able to do that. But really, it does depend on, like, what kind of business you have, right? Exactly what Terry is saying as well. Okay. All right. So let's keep moving on this. The making of a good design. Okay. What's a good design that you'd be able to create? So, of course, content is important, right? But content alone is not going to make your website. Okay, content is important, but it's not alone. There are other things in good design that's important. For example, understandability. Is it clearly or easily understandable what you're actually doing? So the design aspect of it, again, like I said, comes very clearly from the user experience part of it. Is it interesting? Is it something unique? Is it interesting? Is it easy to use, right? Something's too complicated where you can't even see, like, have you gone on a website where there you've gone on a website, there's one massive picture, but you cannot see the navigation tools, you cannot see the menus, right? And then now you're trying to figure out, so you keep scrolling around to see where that is, and then it comes out and pops out from the side, right? Is it something that you like? And maybe for that particular website, their clients prefer that because what they are targeting is more sort of creatives, for example, so that's maybe something to consider when you're doing your design. So uniform in look and feel, of course, is really important. Remember, I mentioned to you, any page that you go to, you have to have the same look and feel, same colors, because your brand, you have to have the brand same all through, not just on one page, right? Your brand has to be portrayed in the same way on all the pages. So visitor's point of view. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about this. So so there's so there's what you see is what you get, which is the one with WYSIWYG. But this one is what you see is what you want. So here, what happens is a lot of businesses on their websites, they actually make it user experience, user friendly, where exactly what you want is what you see, right? So then it's It's quite flexible. There's a lot of flexibility in it. But again, it's upon the nature of your business, right? Where you want to see something like this. Okay. So that's a bit about the, what elements go into a good design. Okay. So we got a poll again. So on to you, Neptune. What question do you want to ask us this time?
It's about the misses and the hits of website designers or companies. We'd like to know the experience on the website. Just follow the same link I shared earlier.
Okay.
You'll find 2 questions. The first one.
Okay, there you go. What do you like most when interacting with a website?
Just share in text. You can key in any word you like.
Okay, so you can only say one thing. Um, so we've got visuals, we've got responsiveness, how nice it looks, of course, very important. Is it overwhelmed with ads? Yeah. Um, okay, so I'm presuming that means that you don't like it overwhelmed with ads um, on that. Um, Clear messaging, how nice it is, responsiveness, of course, visuals, yes. You see, us human beings are very visual. So if you have a video or images that are looking good, then people are attracted to that. So of course, understanding your target audience is really important, and what is attractive to them is also very important. Smooth transitions, I like that. How easy it is to transition from maybe one page to the next. So don't want to sort of use it. That's great. Looks like my internet's a bit unstable, but I'm hoping that you guys can still hear me. Okay, sorry about the internet on my side. All right, great. So next question is, what turns you off when interacting with a website? What is something that you don't like about websites? Yeah, slow websites. So what don't you like about a website? Let's see. Oversized images. Yeah. So sometimes what happens is images are so large that you can't even, like, the image is way big, but the text is really down here, right? And so you have to scroll through quite a lot before you're able to see what is the message around that. So that's true. Too many images. Yeah. Not eye-catching. True. Something that's not appealing, you don't even want to stay on that website, right? You want to just jump off. Yep. Intrusive ads, of course, you have too many ads, all over the place. We understand that a lot of bloggers have to have ads, but then how many ads is enough and how many ads are too many, right? Multiple windows opening. Okay, so every time you select like a product, and then a new tab opens up, Every time you select a different part of the menu, a new tab opens up. So that can be quite annoying. It's true. So long as anything is on your website, you can have it opening up on your main page rather than a different page. So that makes sense. Irrelevant ads. I like that. Though here's the weird thing about irrelevant ads. Um, I think people don't do proper targeting, and that's the reasons why ads are irrelevant when you're looking at a particular like website, for example. Ooh, hard to read. Yes. Hmm. Maybe too small. The font is too small, or the font is a bit too big. Yeah, I like that. Really like that. Okay. Thanks for the responses, people. Thank you very much. Yeah, this is really good. Thank you. And this is it. Oh my God, redirections. Sorry, I've just seen that right now. That is annoying. That is really, really annoying. You go to a website and it says no, you go to a different website, and then it takes you a few minutes before it gets to that website as well. Indeed. Too many turns to find the social media icons, for example. That's true. I don't know why sometimes people put the social media icons as part of the body rather than either on the header or the footer, which is so much easier for people to then just click on it and then go to the social media page, right? So this is great. Thanks very much, guys. I'm going to carry on with the presentation. Neptune, thanks very much for that as well. Okay.
You're welcome. Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, thank you. Lovely. So, planning process. What goes into a website planning? Here are some of the basic questions that you can ask yourself, guys, when you're doing website planning, whether it is a new website or a redesign. Remember, sometimes some of you already have a website, but then maybe you feel like it's not up to the technology right now. It's not up to date. You want to change the look and feel, something of that sort, right? So some of the planning questions that you can ask is, what layout would you like? Right? So there's so many different kinds of layouts. Go onto websites and see which ones are the ones that you like, right? Of course, note them down, but make sure that it's relevant to your business and make sure it's relevant to your target audience as well. So which is why we say, who's your audience, right? You have to understand your audience. If you're targeting corporate CEO kind of thing, then you want to make sure that the layout that you choose is very relevant to that and it's not highly playful. All right. So playful ones could be, like maybe like a kids one, or, restaurants where you want to make it a little bit more interactive with people. So what kind of layout would you want? What is your goal? What do you want to achieve from this website, right? Of course, we've got the educational and informative and what have you, but what is the goal? You want to, convert people. You want them to start writing to you. Do you want them to interact with you? What is the goal on this, right? What is your conversions? So these are some of the things. Who are your stakeholders? How will you maintain and update your website? And I'm going to go through each of these points just now, but evaluate the administrative application of your features that you want to use. So is it easy for you to actually use your website? So here's the thing about websites, and I am not saying Massimo is going to be like that because he's a web developer, but a lot of web developers make it so difficult for clients to make changes on their own. So if there's any change that you'd like to make, you'd have to keep going back to the web developer and saying, please do this for us. Whereas you might just want to change a text or upload a news information, or you want to, so you're looking at maybe getting a nice CMS, content management service, which a lot of websites do provide at the moment, right? So it's important to have something like that. Let's see. So, okay, moving forward. So layout, what kind of layout do you want? So role of your design could be fixed or flexible. Remember, I was mentioning the corporate part of it. So your corporate could be very fixed. It's not dynamic, it's not flexible. Sometimes what happens is you can go onto a website and it's the same content and information, but the website looks different for me as it would look for somebody else, right? So there's flexibilities, a lot of maybe animations in there or something like that. So the role of the design would be whether it's fixed or flexible. Using grid lines for good alignment. So you want to see how well aligned is your website. You want to not have everything just on the, left aligned or right aligned, so grid lines, and you can, sort of Google a little bit about that. Even on your phones, sometimes when you go into your camera, you'll be able to see the grid lines sort of occurring. Then you'll be able to then align your images, for example, through that process of checking out where the grid lines are. Thinking above the fold. Now, what does that mean? So when you go onto a website, anything, as soon as you land on it, whatever you see is above the fold. Once you start scrolling down, that's now below the fold. So anything above the fold, you need to capture someone's attention immediately. People fall on your website. So think about what needs to go on the above the fold part of it. Okay. And a lot of times that will be your value proposition. That will be a nice, great image that will be attractive. That will be all the things that you guys said that are attractive to you as a website. You want to organize your information correctly in the layouts as well. A lot of times what happens is you have a homepage where you can have snippets of your most important information that you'd like to have, and once they click on it, they can go onto that page. So organizing your information as part of your layout is very, very important. Where do you put what? And you don't want to put everything on your homepage either, right? So creating a color scheme, again, goes back to your brand colors. You want to create some color scheme around that using some gradients of colors as well. How well can you actually use your colors? You don't want to use, for example, one of your colors maybe in your logo would be purple or a dark yellow or something like that. So you don't want everything pasted in purple. You want to accentuate those particular colors in specific spaces. Maybe use them for your call to action buttons or specific highlights and spaces. Again, it's part of how the layout will be as part of the design. Choosing the fonts is really important. Is the font, you can have very dreamy creative fonts, but then that probably doesn't work for people who are not able to see, like for example your corporate people, that would doesn't work for them, right? But for creatives and people who are in the creative spaces, that could be easier to, like, that would be very attractive to them. So then understanding your audience and choosing the right font will be very important. What is the look and feel and the right look and feel? So what is your current look and feel on your website? So anyone who has a website right now, go into it and find out for yourself and ask people, right? I would always encourage people, go and ask your customers and people, what is their look and feel and what do they feel about it, and then find out what would you want to change in there. Give some suggestions in there, and then you can use that to incorporate it in your website. um, and then find a way of making it right. So making it right with the look and feel. Okay. So again, who's your audience? Define your target audience. Always very important, right? What kind of audience are you looking at? If it's like, for example, family, that you're trying to target as, like a restaurant, then what kind of images would your target audience want on there, right? They would want probably a mother and child, happy children running around, great food, kiddie menus, things of that sort. So you understand your target audience for you to put that kind of information into your website. Is the website for members only, right? Means that it's actually on like a community membership sort of thing. So are you using the right technology for that website? Again, try to understand. Also don't want to make it too complicated, but if it is something like that, you think about that. Are you trying to recruit new members into the site? How are you going to do that? What is the technology you can use for that as well? We've got a website where we want that community, the community to be sort of close knit, right? But it's still discoverable, because you can make a website which is not discoverable and make a website that is discoverable. So when people put in a particular keyword, they're able to see that website. But then now you start saying, okay, fine, you know what, you need to be part of a member or registration. So the registration process should be nice and smooth as well, right, to get that. So if you have a membership and you want to try to understand what is it that they will be able to do in the website as well, right? What is your audience going to do in that website? Make that clear as well. Okay. And of course, I've talked about the level of technology already. Is important to use within that. And I think we're stressing on technology here quite a lot, is because we have some amazing tech, easy to use, easy to plug in, that we can use while we're actually, sort of designing or developing our website, that we can particularly think about that could help your process, which is like, look, if it's not a business and it's actually an NGO, for example, then there's a different, complete different objective right there as well. So then you can use these tech in different spaces. Okay. All right. So let's go into your goals. So remember, we mentioned that what kind of goals do you have for your website? Here is, write them down and prioritize it. Okay. So for example, is your goal to publicize your brand? Is your goal to publicize your products and services? Is your goal for community outreach, right? You're doing something for, to end malaria, in the world, for example. So what kind of thing are you going to do? Or you're trying to look for people to intern with you, whatever it is. What is your main goal? And like I said, sometimes you have different goals and there could be many of them, but you want to start prioritizing them and seeing which ones are the ones that are more important to you. Okay, so like sales, lead generation, how do you actually use this tool, this website tool, to be able to then create the leads that you really want of your target audiences. Again, very important. So I'm not going to go into targeted ads, but it's something that you can do, and use your website as your landing page. So use your website, so when they click on the ad, they come to your website, so it increases the traffic to your website. And again, a lot of websites, because they're e-commerce or selling a few products or services, not sometimes a very big e-commerce website, then you want them to transact on your website. And it could be sometimes just one book. You have one book that you'd like to sell, so you can sell it on your website over here, right? You're not selling it from somewhere else. I mean, in fact, one of the things that I realize about the social media, especially here in Kenya, and Europe may be different, Europe, US, UK, you're able to make a transaction directly from a social media page. But here in Kenya, or Africa for that matter, we're not able to make a transaction directly from the social media page. So again, crucial to actually do it from your website instead. Okay. Remember, the internet and your website are tools to achieve your company goal, right? So it again comes back to that, goals, prioritize. And once you have set your goals, it's important, because you have a key performance indicator. Is your website actually working for the things that you're saying it's supposed to be working for, right? If it's not, then you come and tweak it again. You can see, how do I make it better? What do I need to do to make it better? Or analyze it. Okay. All right. So who are your stakeholders? Sorry, I've just seen my internet's unstable. Tell me if you can hear me now.
I can hear you.
Yes, Rima, we can hear you.
All right.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Thank you. All right. So stakeholders. Who are your stakeholders in your website journey? I'm going to call it a nice journey, right? So your website journey is your web developer, of course, and your designer. So again, Massimo, being a web developer, will be able to tell you he can do all the coding on the back end, but sometimes the design aspect of it will be from a different person who's a web designer. So the design aspect of it. But if you're going for websites that are already having some templates, for example, the WordPress, you've got Joomla, you've got Wix, that sort of thing, then the designer and the developer may be the same person, because they're using like those templates to help you out and to make you choose the right template for your business as well. That's really important. So your copywriter and content developer. Sometimes your copywriter is actually writing messages specifically to communicate the right information to your audience, right? And content developer could be like the person who actually does your blogs, comes up with different ideas, comes up with different content, you know, so that could be a little bit different. And sometimes it's also the same person as well. Again, so that's a stakeholder. Now, sales and marketing, they know your customer very well. They interact with those customers day in, day out. Great stakeholder to actually help you to understand your target audience better and what kind of things do the clients want to see on the website. So you've got to sort of sit them down together and ask them all these questions. Yeah, they are actually a pool of information and pool of knowledge. And of course, at the end of the day, you've got your business owner. Who's the owner? He knows also, again, what kind of thing you want out there. What I will just give you a bit of a tidbit in here is, and same with branding, which you use for a website as well, is that it's not about what you like. It's not about your favorite color. My favorite color is red and purple. Okay, my website, my logo would have a whole bunch of red and purple in it, but then that is not what my clients wanted to see, right? So it's important to actually do and portray what your clients would like to see, and then what is that translate into, what is the feeling that translates into it, right? So like, good example is, why do banks use blue? They use a lot of blue because blue means loyalty, trust. It creates a trust with people. So that's why a lot of banks actually use the color blue. All right. So that's just a bit of the branding and colors in it. Okay. So considerations that you want in here, of course, the technology that we talked about. Now, domain name and hosting. Where do you host and where do you get your domain name? That's really important. That's crucial. So a tidbit about domain names is, don't make it too long, make it precise, but make it that it's clear. So if it's Ardy Marketing, for us, I mean, it was really important to see ardymarketing.com. But sometimes people put things like limited or LTD, or then you don't want to use those in your domain name. I would not recommend it. Okay. That's the nature of your business and how you're actually doing that. It's not really the identity of your business, right? So domain names can also have like the .org if you're an organization, maybe an NGO or something like that, or doing sustainability stuff. You can use .com if you're actually using something that is for worldwide. If you're using something specifically to target Kenyan audience, then you can use something like .co.ke. Massimo, you can tell me what is that you can use in terms of your domain name for Italy. Please do share that. I would love to hear that. So yeah, so those are some of the ideas in there. Hosting. So I'll tell you a little bit about the hosting. When you're starting off, you can start with a simple, like not so expensive hosting. However, if you're starting up, or if you already have a website that every time there's 5 people on it and it crashes, that's not a good hosting, right? You want to have a good capacity for the number of people at a go being on your website. So the server helps you crash because the capacity is not there. So try and look for hosting, and of course we can be able to help you out with that, where we can recommend good hosting places. I know I love ICT Soft. It's an international organization, but then I know there's no downtime or very little downtime. I have not seen any downtime so far, but then the capacity of the number of people on my website can be there. So if you have an e-commerce website, for example, you definitely don't want it to crash. So you can't use hosting spaces where that would happen very often. Okay. And of course, that's the feedback. Once it crashes means that you've lost a sale, right? Your client runs away and goes to some place where it's more reliable for them. So think about it that way. Maintaining your website is very important. Of course, updating it and keeping it fresh is very important. So you've got to make sure that both the technology as well as the content is maintained. And I'll explain this. So Terry is our web developer, web guru, if you will, right? And he knows that what his role is to make sure that all the technology or the tech on my website is actually fully compliant, updated. There's no plugins that have issues. For example, if there's anything that's going wrong, he's the one who will go into the back end and then sort that out. Then we've got Panina, who will make sure that the content is actually, per par. The event has been uploaded, the new blog has been uploaded. Is she communicating to the right people in the right way? Is it always fresh content information that's going out? So, that's what now you've got the assumed roles and responsibilities for each other person. You don't have to do this on your own. And in case you're a solopreneur, don't worry about it because there are people who can help you out with it. So you do what you're really good at and let other people help you out. We always have to have that, sort of for each other. Okay. So if you have the knowledge and time and skills, please feel free and do it yourself. But if you don't, then help, especially complicated stuff, get it maintained by somebody who can be able to help you out with that. Okay. Questions so far, guys? For some reason, like my chat doesn't open up very well. So I don't know.
Maybe a comment for some. There was a question. Hi, everyone. There was a question in the chat earlier about should you, if you're a web developer and a back end, is it better to be both? Well, the answer to that is it depends on what your target is, on what you're trying to achieve. Mm-hmm. So you'll find that if you're targeting big companies, so like the Fortune Kenya, for example, banks and large corporations, they usually go for specialist teams. They won't have a one-man show, like a one-man shop or a one-woman shop, if you will. They will get someone who does front end. They'll get someone who does back end. They'll get someone who does the SEO and someone who does content. So like copy, so someone like Penina. They'll get a marketer like Rima. They'll get someone who does technical SEO like Moray. So if you're going for the bigger money clients, it's better off if you specialize on one or the other. Either you do front end or you do back end. If your target market is SMEs, maybe startups, people who are just getting started in their business, they prefer dealing with someone who knows a bit of both. So if you decide to do a CMS like WordPress or Wix, you would have a bit of front end and back end. So web design and web development, so that you can just do everything all at once. But also as they scale, if they get bigger, they will want someone specialist to take care of those, because they'll be able to do things in ways that may not be apparent to you. So that comes to the part where Rima was saying, you don't have to do it alone. When you're starting, it's understandable, but as you scale, train others to assume those responsibilities as much as possible, and then focus on where your key aspect is.
Right. I love the content. The chat is buzzing. I love it, and I'm glad that at least that's going on. I've got some points over here. I've got SK saying, on layout, use of white space helps outline the info that the user needs for sure, and use color sparingly. In his opinion, it's 3 maximum. So yeah, that's true. More than that, you've actually done an overkill. Unless it's literally like a rainbow themed website, that's fine. Then it's a rainbow themed website. Okay, so great info on this. I can see that domain name is, so in Italy it must be IT. That's great. Good to know that. Beatrice is saying that prefers .com or .co.ke. That's really good as well. Okay, we've got a question about how do clients are following this path. So freelance careers. I have known freelancers also have their very simple websites. So what happens is a lot of freelancers like love to go on places like Upwork or Fiverr, where they're actually putting and portraying, like their page and their information about what they do within those spaces. So it's again a freelance community where businesses go there and sort of look for designers or look for graphics persons or so on and so forth. There's so many different things in there. But they always have a space where they're also sort of going to, like if you want them to see the credibility part of it, of course, credibility is created through asking your customers to review you. Did you do the job well? Were they happy with that? And then they would review, and then you'd be able to see the review. So new customers or potential customers are able to see that, right? So that's also important. But yes, I have seen freelancers sort of doing that, and putting their website out there. It's as simple as it is, so that they are able to portray what they want to. Like, you see on the Fiverr, like I said, people are looking for specific things. So if I'm looking for a designer, but you do more than just that, you do other things as well. So then on your website you have all the full information about what you do. Okay, so I hope I've actually answered that question that you had. Average budget for designing the website for a social enterprise. So whether it's a social enterprise or it's a different business, it depends on what kind of things that you'd want to put into that website. Okay. And I will sort of ask Terry to talk about this a little bit later. And I know it's still buzzing with lots of questions in there as well. So Terry, maybe what you can do is some of these questions we can actually talk them out loud, so that when we're sharing the recordings, people can also hear all the things that we have to say about it as well. Okay, so we're going to go through those, and so that everyone can actually see that. Okay, so I'm carrying on with the presentation, and we'll come back to the questions. So remember, I said that if you have an already existing website, but you want to redesign it, what are some of the elements that you'd want to look at? We've created a squadron. Okay, so 4 elements or 4 items that you want to look at: the graphic design, the structural design, the right content, because maybe the content is not fresh or not recent. For example, you've been saying that you're 15 years old, but then now 15 years later, you're still saying 15 years old. So that's not helpful. And the user experience. Remember, the user experience is what is actually making our websites much better than just any website that's out there. Okay. So your redesign, if it fails to redesign it, if it fails to reflect your squadron, like it says above, you redesign it if it's not user friendly. So if it's not user friendly, please redesign it. Don't over design your pages, right? The simplicity is great. Visual benefits are there. So use right visuals and right images, but don't over design the website, the pages. Remember, we said too many images is also too much. Too much text is also too much. So some of the things that you need to think about. Information to attract the people who share a common interest. Again, goes back to target audience. What is it that you'd like to attract from these people as well, right? So you want to have that information on your website. And if you don't have it, please redesign it. Information to help new users feel connected to the site and to encourage return visits. Why would people keep coming over and over to your website, right? How do you make them connected to you, right? So those are some of the things and elements that you need to think about when you're designing or redesigning your website. All right. Maybe some things that you don't have on your website and you'd like to redesign would include integration tools. All right, contact information. So for example, the CRM that we're talking about, where you have a backend and you're easily able to use that backend to upload new information or change things around or tweak things around. Forms, right? You want to have a form where someone can fill in and send it to you with their questions and queries. Email integration, and sometimes as your mobile. And you'll see some websites are really good because they'll put the mobile number and email address in there. So as soon as you click on it, it goes to you calling it immediately, especially if you're doing it from your mobile phone. Or if you click on the email, it opens out your Gmail or your Outlook, so you can start sending it to them. So you don't have to copy paste it, you just have to click on it. So it's a hyperlink sort of thing. Okay, so that's kind of nice. And of course, integrating your social media pages. People want to interact with you, and great way of interacting with you is the social media. But then remember, you don't own social media, but you can still use it to socialize and create a community. So bring and raise, sort of make your community larger, so to say. Okay, so you can be able to interact with them. Ease of navigation, an average visit lasts less than 30 seconds. All right. Someone can actually bump off immediately after that. They've looked at your website, they've seen, boom, they're gone. So, how do you keep them on your website a little bit longer? Or how do you keep them on your website such that you're able to interact with them as well? Okay. So, that's important in terms of your structure, in terms of your menu structures, in terms of your navigation as well. Limit your top level navigation menus to 7 items, right? And when we're doing this with Eunice, who wasn't able to join us today, she had actually seen somebody with more than 12 items on their menu navigation. So what do I mean by that? You've got your homepage, you've got your about us, you've got your meet the team, you've got your products and services, and each of them are on a different tab. You've got your news, events, contact us, so on and so forth. So imagine that it's larger than 7. How spread would it be, and how crowded would your top, website, top of the website look like, right? So some of these items can be nested in your submenus. So for example, you can nest your about us or your team under about us, or your partners under about us. So then when you hover on your about us section, your main menu, then you can see all those 2 to 3 items under the submenus in there. Okay, so that's another example. In your products and services, create categories and see how you can do those subcategories in a submenu rather than putting them all on your navigation bar. Again, makes it ease of navigation and not overwhelm somebody who's coming onto your website. Okay. Open external links in a new page or a new window. I love that because imagine like your partner's website. Okay, you've got a partner and they want, you put that, or your client, for example, you're doing a case study and you put their link in there. But imagine if they click on it and it opens on the same window, then that means that you've taken somebody away from your website, which we don't want. So they'd rather open it either on a new window or a new tab. So then that way your website still remains intact. And as soon as they finish reading or watching that, they can come back to your website again, right? So just a couple of things in here. I will share the slides so you can be able to go through them comprehensively at your own time as well. Okay. So some of the browsers that you want to make sure that it's responsive for, your website is responsive for, and you can see over here, Chrome is the highest number of people using in terms of percentage of number of people using Chrome. So you want to have it responsive for Chrome or Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Safari, Opera, so on and so forth, right? So your browser is important to have, responsive on different browsers, okay? And there's tools for helping you do that as well. Website visual, target your screen resolution. In general, a lot of the popular ones before were 800 by 600, 1024 by 768. But a lot of your images, for example, are 1080 by 1080, which is the same ones that Instagram uses. And you can use like boxed images like those even for your website. Or for video, which I think is similar to the one that YouTube uses, which is 1280 by 720. In fact, just to talk about the video, it's actually always good practice to have a video on your homepage. Some reason Google loves it and actually helps you increase your visibility online, right? So have your video on your homepage would actually help. So again, these are very technical things. But you need to at least know bits and pieces about it, right? So for example, don't have a larger image than 300 to 400 pixels in width, or, have your image resolution, so how sharp your image is, to about 72 pixels, so that loading time is also faster. If you have a very high resolution image, then loading time is much slower, and it actually frustrates your users as well. Okay, so that's a little bit about your website visuals. Search engine optimization. The reasons why I bring this in here is because you have a website and you want to make it discoverable. You want to make it like easily found online, right? So when people are searching for specific keywords or key phrases, your website needs to come in those searches, right? And keyword is, you've got to start with the basic ones for your website, but you've got much more, of course, to do on a monthly basis to help you start ranking higher on websites, to start ranking you like on the first pages of Google searches. And it takes a lot of time. I mean, like our basic package takes at least 12 months, but within 6 months, you're able to see the difference that the keyword SEO process or project has actually made for you. So some of the things that you need to think about is, on your pages, make it search friendly. So you put now the keywords in these locations, your page titles, your meta tags, put it in your descriptions, put in your headings, your first paragraph. So that's part of your body of the website or body of the content, and your alt tags. All right. So alt tags are basically like, when you have an image, there's a place where you write alt tag or alt information, and that's now explaining a little bit about what the image is all about, for example, right? So then that actually helps with search engine optimization. Page titles have up to maybe 255 characters. Why are 64 of them very important? When people are searching on Google or search engines, you're able to see the first 64 characters over there. So remember, even before you click on anything and when you've done a search, you read something, and then if you like that, that's when you click on it. So that's now, you have the right information in there. Okay. Again, you can see all the HTMLs and heads and the titles and the meta tags in here. Again, like I said, if you have different tags that you'd like to use, separate them with commas. Sometimes you just have to separate them depending on what you're using. Some are with or without those commas and things, right? And make them lowercase. So that's a general idea. Maybe we can go into keyword SEO as a separate webinar. If you'd like, please do let me know if it's something that you'd like to explore a little bit more on, and we'll be able to help you put something together like this one.
Rima, I can
Yes.
add on to just on the previous one.
Yes.
A lot of this, if you're new to websites or maybe it's not your strength, you don't need to worry about this as much, especially if you use a CMS. Most WordPress, Wix, Shopify, and Squarespace, all of them have tools that are going to help you do all these things. It's like a setup wizard. So they will ask you, what is your site name? What is the keywords? What do you want to be known for? What is your tag phrase? What is your tags and things? Then once you enter all that information, it will do all this work for you. So you don't need to know. You need to know this if you're working on, if you're a specialist. So if you're building the website from the ground up, no CMS, you're just hard coding the website, these become important. Or if you want to specialize in maybe SEO, or you're the technical person who's keeping things working in the back, you'd need to know if there's an error, where to go and fix it. But for majority of the people, they will never have to deal with this directly. So don't let the letters or anything take away, or rather intimidate you or bother you with how they're set up. It's gotten very, very easy over the last 5 or 10 years to do this.
That's true. That's really true. Terry, thanks so much for that. That's really good points right there. You don't need to be overwhelmed with this. I know that it's good to know, and of course you can do a little bit more research into it, or just let your designer or developer sort of work and work that out for you. But then maybe you can do is, having this information makes you ask them, have you put the tags? Have you put the keywords? Have you put the descriptions? So you can ask that, and it makes you more informed about it. Okay, but thanks. So some of the technology like we've talked about, and Terry saying the CMS, WordPress is great. It has a great CMS on it. So I like that. Google Analytics is great. You have a Google Search Console. You've got site caching. These are all different technologies. You've got cross-browser compatibility, API integration, social media integrations, chatbots like Zuri that we have. Great technology to use. Some people use virtual reality, which is like, you want to get people to know about a space, and a lot of people use this for hospitality. So even before they come there, they can have a look and feel and say, okay, now let me book this right now. Okay, so that's virtual reality, and then animations as well. Okay. So what value can you give? What kind of value is there? Offer unique content. What kind of value can you give to your clients? If you offer them unique content, people love this. And so do search engines as well. Remember, you're writing for humans. The content is written for humans. As much as you'd like to have your keywords within this content or within the blogs, please don't stuff it with keywords, because Google, first of all, will red flag you. And remember, you're writing it for the people and not for robots. As much as search engines are looking at that. The more educational it is, the more people would like to share it with other people as well. So make it shareable, make it educative. Do research when paying for content. So if somebody else is writing the content for you, please do the research, because you also don't want it to, sort of portray the wrong thing about your business or about your, like what your expertise is. And keep the content fresh. That's, again, we'll keep stressing about it. Keep it fresh. Don't anything older than 2 years, you might want to start redesigning it, right? That way, even visitors, when they come onto your website, they're like, oh, every time I come here, there's a new something. And I love that, because I can then interact with these people, right? And there's new information and new stuff happening. So that's the value that you create for clients. Remember, we're talking about the accessibility, right? So in accessibility, some of the things that you can use, and there's so many different technologies for this, is people with poor eyesight, they can easily zoom or magnify to see better. Colorblind users, what you use for that is high contrast. So you can have high contrast as an option for somebody who's colorblind and not able to see all the colors. Blind people would have maybe text to audio, and you can make it user friendly even for the keyboards. So there's different things that you can do for less abled people coming onto your website as well, including language translations. So sometimes, and we're talking about this as a team, that some languages are available on browsers where you can then convert it from English to Italian to Spanish to Swahili. But then, like, if you're looking for a specific, like, for example, I don't know, a particular area, then you want to make sure that you do the translation, because Google translations may not actually convert it in the right way that you'd like to portray your message or communicate your information. Okay. All right. Building blocks of responsive web design. We've got, of course, JavaScript, CSS, HTML. These are good to understand and to know. Pretty technical, but I'm just going to go through the ones that I know for sure. Like CSS would be like how well aligned your website is. Flexbox would be like making it responsive. So your content, your words are in a certain way, but if someone looks at it on your phone, you'll see that it's not in the same way. They actually put that onto the next line and the next line and the next line, so it's easier to navigate through. Responsive images, like if it's a bigger image on your laptop or your computer, when you're on your phone or your tab, I mean, it responds to that space that you have as well. Okay. And then, of course, the speed. How fast is it that you can load your website? It can't be too slow. Okay. Here are some examples of not so good a website. This is some of the things that we were talking about in the poll that Neptune had shared. I don't know what is an ad, and I don't know which ones are the images in here, right? So really, really heavy, sort of image all over the place, or text, or not able to navigate properly. Like the second one, I'm not able to navigate. I wouldn't be able to navigate it easier from one space to another. Really difficult. But you've got better websites. You've got websites that are clean. They have that white spaces that we're talking about. Shamelessly put Ardy Marketing in here as well. We're very proud of our website, by the way. So do have a look at it, and give us feedback. Actually, if there's anything in there that you feel like, doesn't work for you, please, feel free to reach out to us and please let us know. Would love to hear from you. But so yeah, so this you can see it's very easily, it's actually above the fold. Remember the above the fold, you actually easily able to see what is it that you're proposing to your client, to your customers, your potential clients. The perfect study buddy, right? For these guys, that's what they're talking about, and you can see that it's a scrollable thing. So each item is actually changing as well. All right. So that's a good example. All right. So top trends, we're almost to the end of the presentation. So some of the top trends in here are dark mode. People love dark mode rather than light mode. Our team here loves dark mode because of ease of reading. I don't know if it's true. You can tell me in the chat if you feel like dark mode is better than light mode. Okay, I'd love to hear that. Then mixed media and 3D elements. But having top trends doesn't necessarily mean that is actually for your company or for your brand or for your image, right? So again, come back to what is your objective and what would you like the user to be able to do as well, all right, on your website. Okay, More says dark mode. Yeah, I'd really love to hear. Is everyone up for dark mode in here? Just
the primary purpose of dark mode, let's just say in this market, is to reduce the strain on your battery, especially for your phone. Yes, reading does help, especially at night, but the main reason it was put in is, the biggest benefit rather, is on battery life, because that white light is, I think they cut it down maybe 10, 20% of the power. So, or rather you gained 20% of your battery.
Terry, I am so going to try that out because my battery does die quite often. So I'm going to definitely try that out today.
Yeah, you should see some notable improvement, but charge it completely first, then switch it to dark mode. Okay. Then you see how it works.
Okay, Sawa, we'll do that. So your site purpose, describe expertise, build your reputation, generating leads, sales and aftercare. Very simple, very important. What is your website for? These are key important things. So once you're ready to build your site, what do? Right? So you've gone through all these things with us. So what is it that you'd like to do? So some of the platforms that we've talked about, again, the ones that you want to start using within a short period of time, as much as possible, I would still kind of outsource somebody doing my website because I don't want to be sitting around doing my website, whereas I'll be able to interact with my customers or my potential customers, and I'm focusing on my conversions or what I'm really good at, right? But there are places that you can be able to do this, and like WordPress is one of them, WordPress.org and not WordPress.com, where you have full control over your website. So the hosting is separate, but you see the thing with separate hosting is that is the charge on the hosting will be much, like it's not a monthly charge. So a lot of the hosted websites like the WordPress.com, Squarespace, Wix, and so on, you have to pay a monthly charge on it as well. I know you have the free ones, but the free ones don't give you that, the space for the domain name and stuff. But I have a few things that are better. Like if you want to hear this, WordPress versus Wix. Okay, just to give an example, none is bad and none is wrong. It's just that a lot of people prefer WordPress for a reason. So WordPress.org for a reason. And some of the things are, there are more plugins for your WordPress website to do several things, including like your SEO, so that those are just really good plugins in there. Better blogging experience has been found on WordPress. Of course, WordPress was started for blogging and stuff, but then they have so many different amazing templates that you can choose from, whether they're free or paid. Again, same as Wix. You get your CMS backend, of course. The e-commerce through the WooCommerce and WordPress is much, much better. We always find that so much easier to use. And again, way more integrations with freedom to sort of make it flexible as well. Like I said, self-hosting, so in your WordPress, you can actually do self-hosting where you select your domain and hosting space. And transferring host. I remember one client came to us and they had a Wix website and they wanted to move from Wix to WordPress. And Terry here can tell you all about it. And it was the worst experience ever. Wix makes it really, really difficult if you wanted to have your own host, for example, to sort of move your website. It's not downloadable or very difficult. Sometimes you have to like literally start from scratch when you're transferring. So yeah, those are just some of the things that we talk. Maybe WordPress is better than Wix. Yeah, we do prefer WordPress. So
yes,
okay.
to talk on Rima's point, Wix and Squarespace and the rest, it's kind of like having a furnished apartment. So you move in, it's very easy, it's very nice, but the day you want to leave, you don't have any furniture, you don't have anything, you have to start from scratch, and they don't allow you to move. GoDaddy does not even allow you to move your own emails that you have. They make it very difficult for people to leave, which is part of their business strategy, and that's on them. But the benefit of WordPress is let's say up to 95% of the information you put on the website is yours, and you can move with it wherever you want. You can't say the same can't be said for any of the other CMSs that are out there.
Thanks for that. Yeah, for sure. And also remember, like if you're using spaces like Square, and Wix, is you have to pay per month. As soon as you stop paying, it's like rental, like you said. If you stop paying, the site is down, right? So yeah, you've got to weigh your pros and cons in there. Planning your website setup. So 8 easy steps to plan to make your website. Okay, plan your website setup. Choose your domain name and web hosting. And each of these are clickable. So when you send it to you, you can be able to go through these yourself. Selecting the right tools to create your website. Get started with WordPress. Select your theme and design a website. Put your content in it. Prepare and put your content in it. Optimize your website for SEO, and then test your website even before you go live. Right? Really easy baby steps that you can use. I know it's simplified, but if you use this, it can actually help and guide you as you're doing your redesign or a new design completely. Again, structure of your content will be homepage, about us, blogs, products and services, individual products, terms and conditions, privacy policy, gallery, events, contact us page. And if you're using for promotions, you can create your landing pages, which are not necessarily discoverable when you're on the main page or the home page or your website for that matter. So clients can't really see it, but your link is actually, for example, ardymarketing.com/web design, or something like that. So it's a landing page that you create, that's great for promotions. And when you're doing your advertisements, we would always recommend try and do that. And if not, then bring them to the page that you'd like them to go to, and not necessarily the home page. Okay. So we've got a resource here for you, which is a website resource. And everyone in here will be able to get that. If I can just open it up. Tell me if you can see this worksheet.
I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Terry. So in this worksheet, it's a resource for you. It helps you to see your progress when you're doing your website. All right, so you're benchmarking, determining your goals, define your brand, define your buyer persona, all the things that we were talking about, protect optimized pages, inventory your assets. When then there's a stage 2, which is the planning, stage 3 design, stage 4 build it, optimize it, all the stuff that we're talking about, it's right in here. And then launch it, and then keep analyzing it using the Google Analytics. It's really important to see where your clients going, where they're coming from, sort of thing. So yeah, so this is just information about how to use it and in your planning process. So yeah, each of you gets this. We will email this to you for you to have. And actually, that's it from us. Of course, we're going to go through the questions just now, but we are going to have a Q&A with Terry, who's been piping in every now and again. Thank you, Terry, for that. So we're going to have a Q&A. It's normally between 1 and 2:30, and this is going to be on the 22nd of July. I will ask one of the team members to please share the bit.ly link on the chat. So if you'd like to register for it, please feel free and do that. So that you'll be able to come and join us for this, and come with your questions. Come with as many questions as you like. This is the idea of our webinars. So again, every month we do 2 webinars. One is the informative one like we did today, and then we have a Q&A, and we have guests these days coming in to actually help us to answer all your questions that you have. If in case, guys, you have not been able to see any of our previous webinars, I will ask one of the team members to also share the YouTube link for where you'll be able to see this and go through any of the older webinars that we have. We've gone through several different things, including value propositions, including how to market, a marketing plan, where to start. Even if you're a freelancer, these kind of things can actually help you out. So yeah, so this is basically the end of it. So I'd really like to thank you for this, but I am going to take questions and all the things that you've been saying. Thanks very much, guys. Terry, do you want to help me with the Q&A?
Yes, of course. Just let me know where we'll start.
You can suggest where you'd like us to start, because I'm actually going through some of the questions that are in here. Let's see. Oh, great. Yeah, More has already shared the YouTube link, so please do subscribe. Would love to have your subscription for this as well, so that every time we upload a new video, and if you have missed a webinar or something, you're easily able to see that.
Okay, so I've been answering some of the chats, some of the questions on chat as Rima was proposing, as Rima was presenting. So some of you may have been able to go through that, but just in case you didn't, I can just quickly run through a lot of them. The first question that came in was about importance to have a mobile first practice to develop a site. And that was answered by knowing your audience. If you're in Kenya, mobile first. You always think of mobile, you always think of someone on their phone. And then after that, you can do everything else. If you are using a CMS, WordPress, etc., you should look for themes that call themselves responsive. A lot of this has already been done for you. And all you have to do is pick the theme that looks the way you want it to look, and the rest of the underlying technology would be done. If you are targeting companies, people who are sitting in an enterprise, Britam, a bank, for example, etc., then mobile first is not really a concern, because those ones, mobile phones are actually not as encouraged in those organizations, and they prefer accessing data through websites, through desktops or laptops. So you focus on maybe 1280 by 720 or higher resolutions, so it's desktop oriented. Yeah. Should website, okay, yes, Rima? Sorry.
So just to add to what you're saying, the reasons why we're saying in Kenya and in other different places, we're data driven, right? So we're data informed rather. So we use data to actually understand why we're making it like mobile responsive, for example, right? So use the market intelligence to help you like sort of see where your target locations, where target people, like Terry is mentioning right now, and what sectors people are, and where would they be using this information, or where would they be accessing your website, right?
Yes. The second one was, should all websites be interactive 24/7? And if so, how can this be achieved? So this goes back to, what does your website do? So right now, people are awake at whatever hours of the night, and they may want some information at that time. So a lot of people, what they do is you launch your website, and then you just gather information. You gather questions. What are people asking? What are the frequently asked questions? And then you can find a tool like Intercom or Talk2. Talk2 is free. That is tawk.to. Maybe More can find it and paste it in the chat. It is a free chatbot. It's forever free. You'll never have to pay anything, and it works very well on CMSs. You can program it to have some intelligent responses. So if someone comes there and you're unavailable, it says, hey, we're not here right now, but please leave a message. We'll get back to you as soon as possible. So you can leave your query and someone will answer it. Others are more advanced in that you can build that logic. There's one called ManyChat. It's a Facebook bot. It's one of the best I found, and it's used for inbox and comments. So when you go to ManyChat, you can create what is called a consumer journey flow, where if someone comes and says, get started, and then I'm looking for a web designer, I have this much money. So it takes you through that whole back and forth process, answering your questions and then taking your information. It has an added benefit of, you can link it to a page. If you have an active page with more than 100 users that's been active for over 2 months, you can link the comment such that if someone replies with a keyword in the comment, like say, or a key phrase like, please tell me more, it will automatically DM that user and say, hey, you said you wanted to know more about this service or this post, or what would you like to know? And it starts that whole conversation. If you get a question that the bot can't answer, it alerts you as a user. So you don't have to sit there 24/7, but you know that your business can be served 24/7. However, if you are a hospital or a critical infrastructure, power, emergency services, then you must have a 24/7 facility. If you were to call the bank, I think it's only NCBA where they switch off at 11 p.m. and they come back at 7. But most others have someone overnight dealing with your issue. They have 24/7 response on their website. Okay, then the next question, what kind of website builders do you advise? Wix or Joomla? Again, it depends on one, your technical skills, how familiar are you with it? 2, your budget. Some of them are one time. Wix is monthly. Joomla can be one time. WordPress is also one time, because all you do is pay for the hosting. For Wix, you pay a subscription model, like the way you pay for internet or DSTV or rent or whatever. And then number 4 is you also think about the longevity. Some people want a quick website just to gather data, and then they use that data to build their proper website. Others just don't want an informational website that is never going to evolve beyond that. So it all depends on your use case. There are some questions you normally answer in these. They usually have wizards or helpers when building the site. So there are some questions they'll ask you, and depending on how you answer them, then it will tell you what is better or worse than the other for your use case. Doesn't mean that one is bad or not. Should a front-end developer know web design? Again, it depends on your specialty. We had answered this before. Yeah. If you can do both, but then you may be restricted by the amount of jobs you get, or you can specialize in one, and then you're called for the very, very high-end jobs where they need a very big team. Some of the rest were answered by Rima about white spaces. White spaces prevents reading fatigue.
So actually, Terry, what I was thinking is, because we're actually, a little bit over time, I wanted to encourage, it's great that people have actually put these in here. And we'll try and see if as a team we can actually do these as FAQs. But I would always recommend all of you to also join us for the Q&A that we have for the next section. Neptune has a final poll that he'd like all of us to sort of work on. Neptune, can you just take us through this and as we say goodbye to everybody? But just take us through the final poll. What would you
Okay.
like us to do?
Thanks, Rima. We'd like to know where you got details about this event, where you registered from. So using the same link, there's one question: from which platform did you register for this event? Please let us know.
Maybe Neptune, you can paste the link again, just for those who may have missed it earlier.
All right.
And Beatrice, I love what you've said. Thank you. I'm glad you actually joined us for this. You know, it's really, really good. And it reminds you of the former business, designed your first website in 1998 with a front page. That's amazing. That is super amazing. You are multi-talented, Beatrice, so that's great.
I'll reshare the link. Sorry.
Great, fantastic. I really am loving all the comments and contents and questions in here. So thank you guys all so much for being, interactive in here as well. Great. This is amazing. Thanks so much, guys. We can see direct link. A lot of people had direct links. So someone shared this with you. That's amazing. Facebook, working, email, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'm interested, Massimo, where did you actually learn this from? Was it LinkedIn?
Yes, I found this on LinkedIn.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm glad to see that we have like a global reach. That's great.
All right, thanks. Next question.
Yeah.
Just a rating of how the event has been carried.
And it's okay for here, you can just give us your honest feedback because it helps us improve.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's true.
we don't mind the response.
Definitely.
I've even stopped sharing it so that in case someone feels like, they're writing something different, it's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But I really want to thank you guys from the bottom of my heart. Between me, Eunice, who's not joined us today, and the entire team, for being here and for being such amazing participants today. Thank you so much. Again, if you have any questions, you want to reach out to us. Everyone within the space, we're going to give you a special discount. 30% off on your web design, which will, be from between here and, within a month. You can actually claim it between now and then. So, if you'd like to, please feel free, reach out to us. Can you just write the email addresses in here again? You can either do that, and we'll also, of course, send you the email with, this information, but you've got a 30% off on your website design, so you can always reach out to us and claim it from us. Okay, so we'll do that for you. But asante sana, that's for your time, and thank you, Terry, also for joining us today to answer the questions. Really appreciate it. Okay, so if anyone does have any questions, we're here for another few minutes. So what we can do is, you can just unmute yourself and you can ask your questions. So yeah. Thanks, Massimo. Thank you. Oh, great. Yep. So if anyone doesn't have a question, then, would like to say have a great afternoon or evening, or, whatever time of the day it is in your spaces. Really appreciate your time today. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It was refreshing and amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, Beatrice.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Okay, bye. Thanks, Nima. Glad you liked the session.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. It was great.
Thanks, Grace. Thank you. Bye. Okay.